Ladies and gentlemen, now that we're in the 21st century, a new language has emerged. I'm talking about emojis. Emojis are so popular that now you can even search for pictures on Instagram just by searching with an emoji. You've probably also seen the new reaction buttons on Facebook, which are the thumbs up, so the typical like, the heart or love. You can also have haha, wow, sad and angry emojis. But before I really get into the heart of this speech, let's just be clear on what emojis are. First of all, emojis should not be confused with emoticons. Emojis are real images and symbols that are rendered on your devices, whereas an emoticon are just expressions and faces created with basic characters from a regular keyboard. When you draw a smile by putting a colon, a dash and a bracket, that's an emoticon. But when you select a yellow face with a tongue sticking out or a blue heart on WhatsApp on your phone, that's an emoji. Emojis can actually reflect many things about our society nowadays. But before I come to that, let's look at understanding emojis and why they actually exist. So, where did emojis come from? Well, they originated in Japan, which you may have already guessed because of the name emoji. I'm going to tell you a story. As the 20th century drew to a close, Japanese mobile phone companies were under increasing pressure to support Japanese users' obsession with images. People couldn't stop sending picture messages to each other. Therefore, there was an issue because the Japanese clients wanted to send more and more photos, but you couldn't have text with a photo at the same time. Then, Shigetaka Kurita, known as the father of emojis, realized that digital communication, so email for example, was actually robbing human beings of creating a message that showed emotion as well as text. And sometimes in Japanese, this even led to problems in communication itself. Everything was shown as text. Even the weather forecast was displayed as fine, but as you all know, a weather forecast usually has a picture of the sunshine, and that makes far more sense than saying fine, because what does fine really mean anyway? So, Shigetaka Kurita wanted to invent something to solve this problem. And to start with, nobody was interested in his project. All companies thought it was stupid, and they were not interested. So he created his own emojis in 1999, and he presented this to many different phone companies in Japan, and instead of creating their own versions, they just took all his ideas and used them. The problem then began with companies which had to edit the emojis so that they would work with their different phone devices. And this meant that if you sent an emoji to someone with a different phone to yourself, it wouldn't actually display. You just get a load of random characters that meant nothing. Then in 2005, they solved this problem by mapping emojis. So they recognized that this emoji message actually would be this on this different phone. Now, we all have emojis on our phones nowadays, and this is probably because of Apple. So iPhones first started using emojis in October 2011 because they wanted to conquer the Japanese market. But they hid this feature from all other countries because we didn't have emojis yet. However, as usual, some geeky tech guy figured out how to unlock it, and suddenly everybody wanted to use emojis. Android phones started adding emojis in 2013, so 2 years after Apple, and everybody was delighted. And they're so popular that in 2015, according to Gretchen McCulloch, a specialist in emoji studies, 4.6% of messages were sent including emojis in 2015. But who regulates emojis? Because as you know, you've probably seen that you have the same emojis on your Android phone as someone who has an iPhone. Well, this brings me to something called the Unicode standard. It's a computer industry standard that tries to ensure that there is consistent handling and encoding of text across the world. Back in 2010, some emoji character sets were incorporated into this standard, and then they were used across the world. Now there is something called the Unicode Consortium, and this is a non-profit American organization. They set standards for emojis and they approve or reject any suggestions for new emojis. Anyone can go and suggest one, so if you feel like drawing a new emoji, you can send it off to them and see if it will be approved. And you may have seen that there have been many new emojis coming out lately. The consortium used to be criticised for a lack of diversity, but it seems like they're improving at the moment. We now have more inclusive job emojis. So we have female firefighters and female astronauts. This is all thanks to lobbying from feminist associations. Previously, you could only get a female emoji for a hairdresser or a manicurist, and these kind of stereotypes. So many new emojis have appeared lately. On the 20th of June, we had 56 new emojis, including a woman in a headscarf. This was the suggestion of a 15-year-old girl living in France, I believe, who wanted to see more diversity represented in emojis. Other new emojis include a vampire, an elf, a wizard, a mermaid and merman, monsters, and lots of animals. And now you can even customize the skin tone of every emoji to make sure that all ethnic diversities are represented. And if you are interested in all the 56 new emojis, you can go to Emojipedia, which is Wikipedia for emojis, and you can see the whole list. In many ways, emojis reflect our society and issues we have. And there are some examples of this which I will give you now. Emojis have been at the heart of scandals. In 2015, Instagram censored the aubergine emoji because it was used systematically in an inappropriate manner that did not respect the terms of usage of the website. Yes, you guessed it, people used it to represent male genitalia. However, the poor innocent aubergine has now been allowed back on Instagram after users were not happy that they were being censored. The same thing happened in 2016 when Apple banned the use of the peach, saying it looked too much like a bottom, but now it's back. Okay, on a more serious note now, it's interesting to see that emojis have also been part of the debate on gun violence in America. In 2016, after the attack in Orlando, Apple changed the gun to a water pistol to try to ease the debate on access to weapons. So as we can see, emojis are clearly an important part of our society. They've even been part of criminal trials. In March 2016, a man was arrested and sent to prison for 6 months because he made death threats by sending his ex-girlfriend a gun emoji. And now, we are all linguists, so did you know that there is actually a job being advertised to work for the New York Times as an emoji translator? Their test includes things like the New York Jets, so you have the Statue of Liberty and a picture of an aeroplane, and you had to work out that this is the New York Jets. So if you decide that interpreting is not for you, perhaps you can translate emojis. But what does the future hold for emojis? Well, I think we can see that they're going to be even more inclusive and representative of our globalized world. Thank you.